few television figures rise to the top of cable news with the kind of momentum that forces an entire industry to pay attention. But that's exactly what happened here. Covering Tucker Carlson's trajectory as a reporter has always meant tracking a personality who seemed to bend viewership trends around himself. His move to Fox News marked the start of a ratings climb that quickly outpaced competitors. Night after night, his program pulled in millions, reshaping the primetime landscape and positioning him as one of the network's most influential voices. From policy debates to culture war flashpoints, he had a talent for turning complex issues into discussions that viewers felt connected to. At press briefings, editors often noted how Carlson's show influenced the next day's political conversations. Sources inside the network described him as someone who had an unusually high level of autonomy, rare for a host working within one of the most structured organizations in broadcasting. But while the influence was clear, so was the pressure that came with it. Behind the scenes, producers often mentioned how the expectations grew heavier as the audience grew larger. And although the network publicly celebrated his success, privately there were murmurs that the pace, intensity, and sheer scale of the show's impact were setting the stage for complications that would come later. For a reporter watching all of this unfold, it was evident that Carlson wasn't just another anchor climbing the ranks. He was becoming a force that the network itself would eventually have to reckon with. Even before the headlines erupted, there were signs that the commentary drawing massive ratings was also generating a growing list of internal concerns. Covering Carlson's broadcasts involved tracking which nightly segments sparked public debate and which ones spurred reactions inside Fox News. His direct, uncompromising delivery made him a favorite among viewers, but it also attracted scrutiny from advocacy groups, political figures, and occasionally even advertisers. As stories developed, it became clear that several of his more polarizing topics were prompting behind-the-scenes conversations about long-term risk and brand safety. Network insiders occasionally briefed reporters off record about memos circulating among executives, discussing how to manage the fallout from segments that had ignited online storms. Despite this, the network stood by him publicly, often emphasizing editorial independence. What made the situation complex was the balance between rating success and public perception. Every spike in viewership seemed paired with another wave of criticism. And as those waves grew more frequent, tracking the friction between Carlson's on-air influence and Fox's corporate strategy became a regular part of newsroom coverage. While there were no outright claims of rule-breaking from the network, the pattern was unmistakable. Each broadcast brought the possibility of another headline, another reaction, and another reason for executives to reevaluate how far they could allow a single host's voice to dominate the national conversation. The real turning point, according to people familiar with the network's internal atmosphere, came when the legal landscape shifted from abstract concern to immediate threat. During the build-up to a major defamation case, one that placed extraordinary financial and reputational pressure on Fox, reporters began noticing a change in tone from corporate representatives. Statements grew more cautious, inquiries were routed through additional legal channels, and internal documents referenced in court filings suddenly became part of a national conversation. Carlson himself was not the central figure in the lawsuit, but materials connected to the broader case raised questions about decision-making across the network. Sources with direct knowledge often emphasized that the issue was less about individual actions and more about organizational exposure. It became clear that network leadership was evaluating every possible point of vulnerability. As filings increased, reporters received tips that executives were combing through communications, messages, and internal exchanges, carefully assessing what might surface next. While none of this publicly implicated Carlson in wrongdoing, it placed his position inside a larger storm. Under intense financial pressure and heightened public attention, the network faced decisions that went beyond viewership metrics. And as the legal environment tightened, it created conditions where even top personalities, no matter how successful, were no longer insulated. What ultimately pushed the situation past the point of no return wasn't a single event, but a collision of timing, internal tension, and escalating corporate risk. When news broke that Carlson and Fox were parting ways, it was as abrupt to reporters as it was to the public. Despite signs of strain, no one expected the separation to unfold with such speed. Off-record conversations with staff suggested that executives had been weighing their options for some time, particularly after reviewing internal materials that surfaced during legal proceedings. While none of these materials reflected criminal wrongdoing or policy violations, they reportedly raised concerns about long-term liability and workplace dynamics. Several individuals familiar with the decision-making process described a scenario where leadership concluded that the combination of legal exposure, reputational pressure, and internal disagreements made continuation unsustainable. This wasn't a matter of one comment or one broadcast. Rather, it was the cumulative effect of months of intensifying scrutiny. Once the decision was reached, it was executed swiftly, with minimal explanation. The lack of detail left room for widespread speculation, but from a reporter's perspective, the broader pattern aligned with a corporation attempting to stabilize itself during a period of heightened uncertainty. Carlson's exit became the centerpiece of that effort, marking a rare moment when the network prioritized structural risk over ratings dominance. The departure didn't just leave a vacant time slot. It created a measurable shift inside the network that reporters could see almost immediately. In the days that followed, Fox News implemented rapid programming adjustments, rotating interim hosts and recalibrating editorial strategy. Conversations with staff suggested that leadership was focused on projecting stability, emphasizing continuity even as they restructured one of their most influential hours. Analysts tracking viewership noted that ratings initially dipped, though the long-term impact remains a subject of debate. What stood out in newsroom coverage was the strategic messaging. Fox framed the change as a standard personnel decision, downplaying speculation. At the same time, competing networks seized the moment, positioning themselves as alternatives for viewers who felt displaced. Internally, several sources mentioned that the atmosphere became more tightly managed, with greater oversight and a renewed emphasis on risk mitigation. Reports of policy refreshers, updated guidelines, and new review procedures circulated among staff. For reporters observing from the outside, the transition underscored how deeply the network understood the stakes. They weren't simply replacing a host, they were redefining how to move forward without the personality who had been a central pillar of their primetime identity. Even after the dust settled, one question continued driving coverage. Where does a media figure of this scale go after such a sudden split? Tracking Carlson post-Fox revealed a figure intent on reasserting his voice, exploring independent platforms, and engaging directly with audiences outside traditional broadcasting. His moves signaled that he wasn't stepping away from public commentary, but shifting to environments where he could operate without corporate oversight. Analysts saw this as part of a larger trend, high-profile commentators leveraging digital spaces to maintain influence. For Fox, the question became how to rebuild primetime momentum without relying on a single dominant personality. Industry experts debated whether the network would double down on familiar formats or introduce new talent with a different strategy. Meanwhile, the broader media landscape continued evolving, with streaming, social platforms, and decentralized commentary weakening. The hold legacy networks once had over public conversation. From a reporter's perspective, Carlson's departure marks not just a personnel change, but a turning point in how media power functions. His split from Fox shows how quickly alliances can shift when corporate risk, legal pressure, and public influence collide. And it raises a larger question about what the next era of broadcast authority